We're waiting.
We are waiting. So for a minute on connecting to Instagram. So there we go. We're live on Instagram too.
Hi guys, I'm Michelle.
And this is Mark.
And this is Mark and Michelle.
That's right.
And guys, Mark and I have been having a conversation, and we're going to just continue having the conversation with you.
Yes. The conversation started because I was coughing up hot sauce from lunch. No.
We made some tacos. It was very yummy.
Yeah, vegan tacos. They were really good. Anyway, we...
Hi, Roxy.
Roxy! From South Africa. What time is it in South Africa? I bet it's 8 or 9 hours ahead of here. Probably,
she's going to let us know real soon.
Probably 9 o'clock, 8:30. Anyway, so Michelle and I, we work on internal stuff, spiritual stuff too, because as we've said before, we wouldn't have started physical healing had we not started internal healing.
We wouldn't even be close to where we are if we hadn't done this.
That's right. And the reason, we didn't know what the reason was then. But you've heard us say that we have since discovered that had we not started healing internally, we wouldn't have been ready to start healing physically.
8:30 p.m.
8:30. See, I was almost on the money. And yay! Thanks for joining us so late in the evening. But and it's probably getting ready to be summer down there now too. So I guess it's warm. But so we've talked about that numerous times, how our healing actually started internally first. So Michelle and I, we are constantly working on health, whether it's internal or external.
And you think this cool? We talk all the time.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
maybe we ought to do a 24-hour live where we carry around cameras on our hats, and you guys get to hear
our conversations,
and our annoyances at each other and everything else. So
I got involved in New Thought. And they say if you change your thoughts, you change your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, they also say, some of them, not all, but I saw an ad today from one of the famous New Thought teachers that said, "Are your thoughts making you sick?" And
so it got us talking, which we've already talked about this before.
We had been talking about where the internal, how does the internal affect the external, right? And what internal work did you do? And what I mean by that is changing your views of the world, changing your views of yourself, changing your views of your life, changing your views of people. How does all of that internal work affect the outside? Well, here's a very basic, simple example. For instance, I'm chronically ill. Let's say I have cancer. And I've seen this happen many times, so I know that this happens. In your head, you think, okay, well, I just have cancer. You resign to your cancer. You resign to its last stages. You resign to death. You're working through all of that. Because for you, that is your way to handle it. All right? Now,
hi, Natalia.
Neither one of these ways is wrong or right. But I will say that for me, I would rather choose the more loving approach, which is healing myself and
actually believing that you can heal yourself.
Right. And the whole point I'm getting to here is if you just think that there is no other way but accepting your cancer and living with it, then that's how you're going to behave.
And that goes for autism.
It goes for anything.
It goes for all of it.
And the whole point here, again, is if on the inside you have a strong belief that nothing can change, it won't.
Right.
Right.
So that is an instance where the belief actually does affect you.
Not a thought, a belief. Because your belief, you behave, you act according to your beliefs. Many of you probably heard that. And growing up, she and I both grew up in Protestant churches here in the United States. Her dad being a Baptist, Southern Baptist minister, my dad being Pentecostal. But you constantly hear in churches here, act on what you believe. And now, is that difficult? Yes. But it can be done. But then if you believe it's difficult, that's a belief.
The cool thing about New Thought was it opened me up to knowing that I could actually change my beliefs. I had no idea that they were changeable until I started reading all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so the whole point we're getting to here, again, I've said whole point 5 times.
We're not going to get to the point till the end, I think.
No, we're not, but we'll work towards it. Is that we've seen too many times your thoughts are making you sick.
Right. And I had become, I was working so hard to change my thoughts and my body kept getting worse. And now my mind got better.
Your perspective.
The landscape within myself improved. And it improved enough to lead me to medical medium. I finally believed that I could get well. That was the change right there. And if I hadn't done all of that thought stuff, I might not have gotten to the point where I could believe that I could get well. And then I might not have found medical medium, and I might not be where I am now.
And where she's at now is a direct product of changing her internal world for her external. So am I. And
but we want to make it clear that medical medium says your thoughts do not make you sick. You are actually sick. And when he said that, it made me feel so good.
Well, think about this. If babies are born sick, what beliefs do they have? Or, I mean, they're newborns. What beliefs did they pick up from somebody that made them sick? Or thoughts? And
look at what Natalia said. I'm healing my daughter in Argentina from autism with the information of medical medium. Good for you.
Hooray!
Very good.
Because medical medium has it right. You're sick.
You're sick. You are really sick.
I mean, I was sick. I was really sick. I was barely functional sick. So was she. And she was getting worse as time went on, and so was I. And when we found out there was a possibility of change, we decided, okay, let's see if it'll work.
But I had to change my beliefs to get to that point.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to change your food.
The beliefs were blocks.
Yeah.
See, it's not the thoughts. The thoughts come from the beliefs. Because if you get rid of the beliefs, the thoughts change. Now, how do we know that? Because there's a guy that we've been reading, especially Michelle, called David Hawkins.
David R.
Hawkins. And he's written books called Letting Go. Was it The Act of Surrender? I think that's what it's called. And then another one called Power versus Force. Numerous other books. But his whole thing is we have emotions in us. And I'll go a little further here in a minute. Emotions in us that we have suppressed and we have pushed down. And those emotions are keeping us from changing.
Mm-hmm.
And
they can make you sick.
I only realized how emotions could make you sick once I started recovering. Because then I had a connection to them. And I got my adrenals crashed once because I freaked out because I thought she was going to run over a pylon in the parking lot at the farmer's market. I was sick for a couple of hours after that. And so I had to eat a bunch of fruit. But I was so sick, I had to lay in the recliner chair. That had never happened to me before recovery. I take it back one time. Got mad at somebody at work, so angry that I wound up with a sore throat and I was sick for the next week. Mm-hmm. And that was before, but that was the angriest I had ever been up to recovery. And it made me sick. And I'm like, man, and I was really surprised. I was like, man, emotions can make you sick?
Yeah, there's a difference between emotions making you sick and viruses making you sick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the emotion didn't necessarily cause the virus, but it can trigger the virus to become worse.
Because it's stress.
Right.
And so our whole thing here is you didn't get sick by a bunch of thoughts that you thunk, right? To quote Dr. Seuss. So many kids are born sick. What chance did they have to think themselves into sickness?
Right.
It makes no sense. And I mean, because you hear of kids born with cancer or numerous other diseases. No thought made them sick. And that's basically what they're saying. whatever you're thinking isn't making you sick. Maybe what you believe about your sickness is keeping you sick, but it didn't make you sick either.
Right.
And it is okay to be sick. It's okay to be autistic. But if you don't like, someone recently told me, well, I'm sorry that you got programmed to believe that your autism and brain were wrong. And I told her, my reply was, no one told me it was wrong except me. Because when you get uncomfortable with being sick, that's when you'll decide to change. That's when you'll decide, okay, I'm done with this. I can have something better than this. And that's self-love too. That's loving yourself, deciding that you can have it better.
Yep.
And so when you decide that, you know what, I've had it with this pain, I've had it with this, because we both went through this, you know, and we both realized, you know, we're done with this. We're not living the lives we want to live because of whatever these sicknesses are that are in our way. We didn't know up until, and Michelle, I don't think she has a specific name for hers because she's had chronic fatigue syndrome, she had Lyme disease, and other things. I think she just had a collection of illnesses that combined together and made her even sicker.
Lots of viruses.
Medical meeting would say EBV. So,
well, and shingles and blah, blah, blah.
Right. So, you know, you may not necessarily, you don't need a diagnosis. If you feel sick, heal. Skip the middlemen. Skip the tests. Tests. I'm going to add this in there.
Oh, you're going to say what you learned.
Here's what.
Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
We have a lot of people who really believe in the test. That's fine if you do. But let me point out something to you, all right? This is me from my biological background. This is me reading scientific papers. This is me reading about lab reports and lab tests and this kind of thing on all types of things. But let's just talk about heavy metals because that's one of the biggest culprits in most sickness, all right? Let's talk about mercury, just mercury as a heavy metal, all right? I was reading about lab tests and their accuracy the other day. And this article from a testing lab, literally, pointed out that lab tests are only accurate for the particular medium you're testing. For instance, if it's blood, it's only accurate for the blood. If it's tissue, a tissue sample, like brain tissue, kidney tissue, liver tissue, whatever, it's only accurate for that sample. Why? Because as this lab pointed out, heavy metals, like mercury, get deposited in different places. You may have mercury in your blood, but that doesn't mean that's the only place you've got mercury in your body. This lab,
you may not have it in your blood, but that doesn't mean you don't have it in your body.
Exactly. The whole point was this lab pointed out that for heavy metals specifically, some heavy metals, depending on their form. Now, what I mean by that is, for instance, methyl mercury, which you find in seafood. Do you know they tell you don't eat seafood 48 hours before you have a heavy metals test? Why would they do that?
Because it would be in the blood.
It'd be in the seafood.
Right.
And it would spike your methyl mercury level. And that means that's how much methyl mercury is in seafood, that they tell you not to eat any seafood before you have a test for heavy metals, especially mercury. So what I mean is methyl mercury is one form. Then you can have molecular mercury. What is it? Is it Mg? I think mercury is Mg2, or that's magnesium. But you can have mercury ions. But this lab site pointed out that those three types of mercury don't congregate in the same place. It sounds like a crowd or a gang or something, but well, you might say it is a gang, and it's a dangerous gang at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but different types of mercury deposit in different places in the body. Some shows up in the blood, other types don't. Some show up in the liver, other types of mercury don't. That's the same way with all metals. So these tests that you get that you think are accurate by getting one test, they're not. They're accurate for the particular thing you tested, blood, liver tissue, brain tissue, whatever. They're accurate for that, but that's all they're accurate for. You would have to get a complete picture. You would have to have your bone tissue tested, brain tissue tested, liver tested, kidneys, intestines. You would have to have everything tested in your body to know what the complete picture was of heavy metals in you. So relying on one test is BS. It makes you feel good, but that's all it's going to do for you. All right?
Because it's not even telling you what's going on in the rest of you.
It's not.
Now,
it's only telling you what's going on in one spot.
Symptoms tell you what's going on.
Go by symptoms.
Symptoms.
And the root cause, if it's heavy metals, what do? Drink the heavy metal detox smoothie. That's what you do.
It's a miracle.
Yeah? Forget the tests, because the tests aren't going to be accurate enough for you to operate.
Spend your money on supplements and the heavy metal detox smoothie.
Yeah.
On food.
Mm-hmm. So that's the reason you can believe in the tests, but the tests are middlemen, and you're wasting your time. Because if you have no mercury in your blood, yet you still have the symptoms of mercury poisoning.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
Right?
And that might make you think, well, then there's nothing wrong with my kid. What? Then why do they have autism?
Why do they have the behaviors associated with pandas? Because mercury is associated directly with pandas. Believe it or not, I found the articles. Bacteria and viruses feed off mercury. When the viruses die, the neurotoxins get deposited into the blood and in the brain, destroy nerve endings, and cause behaviors. I had it, and when I finally detoxed enough of the heavy metals about 2 or 3 months ago, the pandas stopped when I was eating the strep foods. So I didn't have the behaviors. What I still have a little tiny bit is the negative mindset, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be before I detoxed more of the heavy metals. So we're telling you, don't waste your time on all those tests. If you suspect it, go heal it. That's all you got to do.
Heal it.
Mm-hmm. Because, and here's something too. You'll hear people say, well, are you diagnosing yourself and healing yourself? And are you practicing medicine or whatever this, that? You know what? When you go to a doctor, you don't have to take that doctor's advice. So it doesn't matter whether that doctor's practicing medicine or not. Because if you tell the doctor, sorry, I don't believe you, and I'm not taking your advice, it doesn't matter. Because you can tell me the same thing. You can tell yourself the same thing, and you quite often do. Now, back to the beliefs.
I wanted to say, we're reading the David Hawkins books,
Mm-hmm.
and I read Seth. So between the two, we've kind of figured out the middle ground between external and internal.
Mm-hmm.
So we have figured out that you have to feel your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So go into that.
Well, now, what she's talking about, some of you may never have thought of this, some of you may have. But have you ever realized what toxins you may have internally, emotionally, that you need to detox from? Because you've heard us talk about emotional detox.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm talking about now.
Right, yeah.
This is what we're talking about.
Yes, thank you for bringing that together.
And this is exactly what we're talking about here. Because, for instance, if you feel unworthy to heal, you won't. If you feel unworthy to have something better, you won't have something better. What those two things have in common is a feeling of unworthiness. So what she's saying that we learned from David Hawkins is this. You bring up a situation in your mind where you feel unworthy. When that feeling of unworthiness comes up, don't repress it. Don't push it away. Don't reject it. Let it sit there for a few seconds.
But it's more than that. You've got to go from that scenario that you just made and release the scenario, but feel those feelings and move your consciousness down to the feelings and be with the feelings.
That's where I was getting to, but yeah. Yeah.
Be with the feelings.
Wherever they're at in your body.
Because they can be anywhere. I felt them here, I felt them here, I felt them here and down here, but they're all right here.
So feel those feelings.
Oh, we should say that for the podcast.
Well, let me finish this. Let me feel those feelings until they go away. It's only a few seconds, right?
Well, it depends on how.
Well, I guess it depends.
How NT you are.
Well, Michelle has this huge.
Because I had one that took about 10 minutes.
Yeah, but think about that, 10 minutes as opposed to months or years through therapy of some type.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway,
So
what were you gonna say?
podcasters, it's everywhere. It's below your rib cage and down.
Mm-hmm.
The gut area, the intestines, where all of the feelings exist. And I mean emotions, because emotions are lack. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Think about this. You desire a new job, all right? And what we figured out, and this makes so much sense, because you'll hear people say, oh, well, just hope for.
Yeah, hope. We hear hope a lot.
Right?
That's actually negative. We're going to teach you how to be different than hope.
Okay? Here's why hope is negative. Almost every emotion you have is a reaction to an external circumstance. Here's what I mean. You've applied for a new job. You're hoping that you get that job. Well, hoping means that you feel the lack of that new job. You don't already have it, so you're hoping for it.
So let's use
underlying,
that for healing.
Right.
Use an example for healing autism.
All right. Well, let's just talk about healing autism then. You hope to heal, right? The thing is, that hope is a reaction to not already being healed.
Right.
And the underlying emotion behind the hope is, I'm not already healthy.
Right.
I want to be healthy.
And I don't believe that I'm going to be healthy, but I hope that I'm going to be healthy.
Right. Now, you got to start somewhere. That's true.
Yeah, that's better than being angry.
Yes.
Or that's better than being depressed.
We're just helping you climb the ladder.
Climb the ladder.
And this is kind of a more advanced thing. It doesn't mean you can't do it. This will speak to some folks and not others. But others who doesn't speak to, later on it might. The whole point in here is when you say, I would love to have something. I would love to have my health. Or I want my health back. Those are all coming from positions of not having it now. Now, that's true. In reality, do you not have it now? Yes. But the whole point is, those emotions keep you in a state of feeling like you don't have it. Now, if you're in a state of saying, well, you know what, I have my health. Now, that's an affirmation. That isn't unrealistic, because I dealt with I thought that's dishonest. For my whole recovery, affirmations are just dishonest. Finally, I realized, as we were talking last night, that when you say you're trying to create your state of health, when you say, I have my health, what you're saying is, I'm coming from a stance now of having it as opposed to not having it.
Right. You're switching that perspective. So it goes from a reaction down below your rib cage to your heart, where you're broadcasting.
You're broadcasting your intent to create.
This is my intent. I am healed from autism. You come from that place, you're going to have a very different experience.
Exactly. And that's what we're both saying, just in different words. But that's the thing.
It takes two.
It does. And or however many other teachers people
yes.
But that's the reason we wanted to get on today, is because, first of all, your thoughts are not making you sick. Many of us were born sick. Michelle's quite sure she was born sick. Yeah. I'm sure I was born with a backed up liver to have the reactions that I had to vaccines in the early 1970s. And I think people have always been born sick in our industrialized society. And so your thoughts aren't making you sick. How can they if you were born sick? And all of us know kids who were born sick, right? And that makes no sense for a newborn to be responsible for their sickness, to be blamed for their sickness because of their thoughts. Doesn't make any sense. But what does make sense is, if you've decided you want to heal, it could very well be that beliefs that you picked up as you grew up are keeping you from healing, because they're either involved in worth issues, self-love issues. those are probably the same thing. I kind of
Well, traumas happen.
Well,
And
traumas happen and cause you to believe things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're saying this. Your thoughts don't make you sick, but as you grow older, your beliefs may be keeping you from healing, and they may keep you sick, right?
Yes.
So that's why you have to examine them. In fact, I imagine that most people, before they started physically healing, had to heal internally first before they could start physically healing, because if they didn't believe they could, they weren't going to anyway.
Right.
That's why we're talking about this.
That's how the matrix works.
The matrix works. Yeah, the whole quantum field thing.
Quantum
and
field.
I know that there's a lot of physicists out there who think that's bunk, and a lot of collective too. But you know what? There was a famous quantum physicist, I think his name was John Wegener, who seriously asked the question, how does our consciousness create our reality in this quantum world? He was a quantum physicist. So that is very much a possibility, and I think it tends to happen. So Michelle and I's whole thing is, don't let the beliefs that you have about yourself, about healing and that kind of stuff, hold you back from real healing. Because we have the tools to show you how to move those beliefs on to helpful beliefs instead of unhelpful, unsupportive ones.
And we love that you are feeling hope from us, but we want to engender broadcasts of knowing that you're going to heal.
That you're healed, yes.
We want you to come from your heart and know.
And because we're finding that we're having to do that now for ourselves. And we have done that because we can all go back into our past and go, I wonder if I was able to do that in my past, to create my reality with intent and just know that it was going to happen. Yeah, we've all done that at least once. And probably enough times so that we can remember at least one or two instances. I know I can. I did it even as an autistic person.
Yeah.
So it happens. In fact, that's how I got hurt. I was riding to work one day, and I just said to the universe, I said, I really would like someone in my life. See what you can do. That's what I said. And I just stopped thinking about it from then on. I gave it away. I let it go. And I didn't come from any negative space. Oddly enough, I didn't come from any negative space. And 3 weeks later, I met her. That's how that works. So anyway, what else do we want to go over?
That's it.
Okay. And Michelle has been moved. And so anyway, guys, please continue on with that celery juice. Continue on with that
Heavy Metal Detox Smoothie.
Continue on with that lemon water. And go to www.healyoureautism.com and download our book, Buried Alive, One Man's Journey Out of Autism.
That is a free ebook.
It is. Then, after you read that, you're going to need help starting on your healing journey. So, move on to the next page, www.healyoureautism.com/buy the book, BUY, the book.
It has been described as, Michelle, Mark, you read all of Medical Medium's books and told us exactly what to do in a very short, concise, organized manner.
It is. And there are lots of freebies that go with the book, and you'll definitely want those. Now, you will have questions on your healing journey. So, on our next page, we have coaching. We have group coaching. We also do one-on-one coaching. We can even make that an unlimited question and answer session, however you want to do it. But you can get your questions answered. You can get support from us, everything. And if you love our support us. So, all right, guys, what else do we want to talk about?
Nope. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Have a great day.
Bye.